So welcome back to part 2. It's about time I finally got around to making this. Finally home alone, and I actually have a bit of time to do this, which is nice. So here we go. So last time I made a video about this was about making a layout and doing basic supporting of a dive. And today I'm going to do terrain and basic scenery, and that should pretty much be good. Like I said, I should really organize these folders. I really should. I really should. Here we go. There was a special version I was working on. I guess that's. Should just rename it to that. Oh well. Should a little bit faster. I've upgraded to an SSD, so this should at least, this shouldn't be going anywhere for a while. I'll have to say that right now. This shouldn't be going anywhere now. Okay, I lied. It is taking a while. Okay, so I've since then ditched the reshade for now, so I'm going to have to reinstall that later on, but that's besides the point. So here is everything. FOV is really skewed. So we worked on last time. It seems to be okay enough. It's not perfect by any means. Like there's some things I could have done a lot better, but it gets the basic job done. the the absolute bare minimum of a job done. Uh, like I said, I would take a little bit more care in making something like this, but it's passable. And this isn't really meant to show anything like professional. It's just to show like, hey, look, you can do this if you put your mind to it. Anyway, so like I said, today I'm going to do terrain and basic scenery, as in just some foliage around and maybe a couple rocks or something. I don't know. Anyway, so unfreeze it. This is probably the best way to do it because if you keep it frozen and you use when you use the height, it would kind of messes with it. It doesn't really change automatically like it is right there. As you can see, No One's 2 has that little silly thing where it's like, go deep enough, you get water. So, anyway, so it seems a little unethical to go this low for water, so it wouldn't really be worth it to just, dip it down like that. It doesn't look that good. It doesn't look realistic either. Anywho, so some spots could be lowered, like right here could be lowered a bit, for example, or maybe right after even the first drop, we can go down a bit. And back here we can raise it a couple of feet. And every once in a while I'll do smooth terrain just to, smooth it out. And sometimes I won't even do that at all because, it's good enough. It's only really if you get to like one point and let's say smooth terrain, that's when it really tries to smooth it. If it's something like 8 or even I think 4 times you can get away with it being smooth. But if you're using like a really high point value like this, it's not really gonna affect it that much. You don't really have to smooth it that much. Anywho, so this helix looks a little jarring out of place, so we're just gonna heighten this up a couple of feet. And we're going to lower the part when it enters the helix, surprisingly. Gonna heighten it up a bit. Not too much, a couple feet. If it's one thing I love terrain hugging roller coasters. They look cooler. They don't, because some supports especially for a wooden roller coaster, it could look kind of ugly. But I mean, a wooden coaster has its own charm for sure. But there's times when the supports are just a bit ugly. So like when it's close to the ground like this, it just looks better. You know, it's just there's just not a lot of like wood wasted or not wasted, but like you can save a lot of wood if you carefully plan where a wooden coaster would go. In the case this isn't a wooden roller coaster, this is just a normal uh, dive, so it's not going to look too bad with the supports. Like I said, like I don't hate wooden supports. Like I said, it has its own charm to it, but it's not something I'm very fond of though. Smooth terrain. And there's times where I would go like this to kind of get a feel for terrain. Now let's say I want to add like I don't know a little lake right here, like so you get to the dive loop or the Immelman, excuse me, and you want to see this like a lake right here. Well, how would I go about doing that? Well, first off, I would take a larger point and I would just dip it until I start seeing water. Like just when I start seeing water, not like like just a little bit. And I would just go a little bit like so. Yeah, you don't want to be like really deep. Sure, you're not gonna be showing anything off like this, but if you want to be like really realistic, if you want hyper realistic terrain, for example, lakes don't just like. Some do probably, but like not a lot of them go like that. They don't go so steeply into the ground. They kind of just gradually kind of have a bit of a beach here, and then there's the lake, but it doesn't go deep. Again, it's a gradual process of getting to the deepest part. Hence, why usually the middle is the deepest. Makes sense. It's just me stating obvious facts here, I guess. Okay, maybe not all the time. The middle's the deepest, but usually it is because the center. So you kind of create like a bit of a basin here, like you kind of just make it go down, like gradually into a lake, perhaps. And then there's the lake or river at the moment. The lake is more or less just a little pond right now, but I can expand that. So let's do this. I usually like to make the lake first, then I kind of just shape it, like shape the surroundings. Because if I shape it first and then do like it just takes more time. And the farther away I get, the less careful I am. I'm just like, okay, so I'll just keep it like this thing. Because you're really far away, you're not really gonna notice that. Like there's actually a little technique to doing, like let's say foliage placement for optimization, which is something I clearly lack, by the way. And it involves using 2D trees or using just using low polys at a distance. Just this way you don't load in so much and it reduces shadows and polygon count and all that crap. It's basic like map making basically. It's kind of like map making. If you ever made a map before, it's similar to that. Anywho, so just we'll go a bit more this way. Why not? Like I said, it doesn't really need to be crazy. So this could work. That could work. Again, now time to make it more gradually approach the entrance of the lake. You can have some steep parts too. Like this could be acceptable as long as there's some like little beach part you can kind of have like that, like or like this. This would be fine. That's more acceptable. And we're just gonna tweak it up a bit. I'll go a little bit more into detail here since I'm actually doing this live kind of. And this would do. This would do just fine. Just shaping out and we're good to go. This is the lake, basically. There's times whereas I would make like a lake here, and then I would make a pond go off, or not pond. I'm sorry, a river go off into the distance, and then kind of just stop like right there, for example, and then just go all the way to there. Anywho, so now it's time to just do a little bit more around here, and then terrain's kind of done. In all honesty, I'm just doing basic terrain here, just to make it look kind of pretty, just for fun. Like I said, I'm not gonna go too crazy because this is where your creativity will kick in to make something neat, you know? So over here we have some hills or something, and then smooth terrain just for fun. Okay. Lower right here, basically. So far, it seems like my everything is keeping up with the stream, which is nice. So I do intend to get a better CPU down the line. I have an Intel i5. If you guys look down in the description, it's good, but it's not great. If that makes sense. I would like to go into a Ryzen eventually, but I've discovered that it wouldn't really matter too much for my standards. So I'm just gonna stay with the i5 for a little while longer. But I like to keep talking about PCs to a minimum because I usually get trashed for it for some reason. Anywho, so this probably looks pretty good. It looks pretty varied here. Press space to go back to this mode, which is nice. So it looks pretty nice. You could argue maybe I could do more on this side, but for the sake of this, for now, this side is pretty good. And at least the part under the coaster is good. So we can technically forever keep this coaster frozen, which is really nice because why not? It's me cracking my neck, pardon me. Okay. Oh, mini supports are awful, awful. I'd be tweaking these for days. Anywho, so now we're just gonna take a look at another good look at it in frozen mode, and as you can see, this looks a lot better. It looks more closer to the ground. It's more hugging, and the supports are a little more acceptable for what they are. This would also be a good time to adjust any of these. I don't know why it's so thin though. That's the thing. Usually these are 20s. I don't know why they're so thin. Oh, I know why. Because it's a default support. I'm stupid. I didn't atomize the support. Oh well, it's okay. It'll live. It's again, it's nothing too crazy. So yeah, we'll refreeze it. And awesome. So now, let's say our terrain's done. We'll just worry about this one half. All right. Right. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna do something called, well not called, but it's basically just textures. Textures on terrain, for me, it means a lot actually, like to have a specific texture because if it's all just grass, it's just boring. It's stupid. A lot of the appeal, in my opinion, comes from ground textures from when you're hugging the ground. So say for example you're on, let's say, a B&M Hyper coaster. A coaster goes over 200 feet, by the way, for those who don't know. And you're, let's say it's like a terrain hugger kind of, like in a sense where it's like it's going around like high speed turns and really like it's not really meant for airtime, but it's more geared towards like let's say high speed turns. So in a sense maybe a bit more intimate instead, but you get the point. If a roller coaster is like focused around that, textures like on the surface mean a lot to me or to anyone really because it gives a lot of visual appeal instead of just the boring grass. You kind of get a bit of a, I don't know, like you see the color of the coaster and you see a bunch of green basically, and to me that's no fun. That's silly. So like you want to at least have some type of dirt texture going on, or you want something like sand, like a sandy beach right here or something. And you want it to be kind of realistic, meaning like you don't want sand going all the way over there. You could theoretically, but I like to kind of keep it more controlled around the lake. So for example, this little basin here, or this little like beach spot, can all be sand, and then have like a transition of dirt going around it, and the rest could be, ooh, that's recycling. You can have a transition back to grass, or have like some dirt patches all around here, if that makes any sense. Uh, so we're going to go into terrain settings, and here we have all this. Now, I'm going to point out right now, I'm horribly disorganized, and just bear with me. It's just going to take a minute for me to get all these textures ready, so yeah. Another thing I want to mention too, real quick, is actually you can change the density and you can change the texture of the water, which is actually really unique in my opinion. Like, that's actually really cool. So if you want like a specific vibe to a certain area, let's say it's not just a lake, let's say it's some like ocean, you can change the color of this, or you can change the whole texture and the I think the bump map is, yeah, the bump map of it, which is really cool. You can use a normal map, or you can use a height scale map. I wouldn't really recommend messing with the bump map too much. I recommend really just changing the texture, but you better be careful with those again. Like, you need some type of something. Normally, the density of water is, of the water is usually about zero point 0.8. But for my standards, I like it a little bit higher. Like 0.5 would do. Unless it's like a really murky lake or like a bay or something, you don't really want it to be like too dense. So maybe even less like 3.5. And also, for those who don't know and who are curious, you can go into like the quadrillions place pretty much, which is quite interesting. You can have reflections on max, or you can have really high waves, but since this is a little dinky lake, really want nothing. So there, that should be okay. Just look good enough. And notice too the new lighting engine. I think I think the new lighting engine does this, has a new like nice little water effects underwater. Anywho, so yeah, we're not going to be messing with textures here, but I just wanted to show you the density and just show you like what I normally would do. A lake, probably like less than 0.4. If it's an ocean, like 0.7, 0.6, up to about maybe 1. Like, I won't go any higher than 1 if I was anyone. It's like, here's a 1, for example. So basically, the higher the number, the more murky and the more like cloudy it looks. Whereas the lower the number, you can practically see right through it. So say, for example, a 0, you can see the bottom of the lake. So let's do like 0.25. That should be okay enough. Regardless, we're going to sand texture this, so there's going to be no grass underwater. And I'm going to show you another special setting that I like to do. Now, I never save my settings because I'm always changing them. So there's that. I'm always changing my texture settings. So I never really actually save a blueprint or a base because it's always different. It's always upgrading or whatever, simplifying. It's always different. So I never save them, which might sound stupid to some, but it's what I do. Hey, look, I do what I do to get done. It might take longer, but oh well. If you want to be organized, I recommend saving them or making a whole another folder for it. I might do that eventually, just make a whole another folder, organize everything. Anywho, so now we're going to call this grass no auto. Now, what do you mean by no auto? Auto plants. You can enable an auto plant and you can cover it up to a certain percent. Or, no, I'm sorry, that's auto paint. I'm stupid. Oh my god, extras, I'm sorry. Extras. I saw auto and I'm like, oh, auto paint. My apologies. Anyway, so you can change footstep sounds. I never really mess with that because my stuff never really shows any like walking. Auto plant, that's what I meant. I'm sorry. So you go to auto plant, you go to library, and you go to trees and plants, auto plants, and it's just grass. You can make your own special um, grass or anything. Even a building can be an auto plant. I'm not even joking. I would do that, but that might crash. I'm not so sure. So you could do that, but since this is the no auto zone, you don't want that. So we're gonna do it on this one. So we're gonna do extras, this, grass. Hit okay, hit okay. And now the grass looks a lot more realistic too, because you have this little bunch of it going up, which is nice. So it looks better now. This looks a lot better already. Again, so yeah, we're gonna have this. It's gonna be practically the same. It's gonna be the same as grass, regular grass, but it's just gonna have no auto. So let me look at what we got here. So we have the diffuse cloud and vegetation. So up, diffuse cloud, enable detail mapping. Okay. So now we have a grass with no auto plant. So now I'm gonna do dirt and sand. Sand. Awesome. So you have dirt here, and we can choose from a whole variety of dirt. There's a couple different ones. I like to use dirt terrain or regular dirt, doesn't really matter. You can change this so you can kind of see them better. Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, it's dirt. I apologize. And then detail mapping, and you do dirt detail. Or you would do something like that. Say, okay, sand. We want that to be grass. We want that to be sand and terrain, sand detail. Okay, okay. So let's see if it works. Sand, paint layer. Now this might look incredibly hideous, and let me explain why. You're right. As you can see, you get close, and it's like, what the frick is that? Oh, here we go. We'll go into... So as you see, we have repeats. Repeats is like how many times the texture will repeat itself. What you kind of want is you want A and B to be kind of like the default ones, and B and or C and D will be like the complete different ones. So let's say we want this to be like D, and we change it to like 0.3. As you can see, it looks pretty atrocious. You can't even tell the texture. Like it just looks awful. Or you change it to that, so this way it would basically have no texture, but you have to get really close to even see it. It looks high res up close, but from a distance, the repeat is just way too much. So what I would do is find a good happy medium. So this is where C and D definitely really comes into play here. So I would do like maybe 0.25. As you see, it's a lot more bearable, still a little too much, so we gotta heighten it up just a little bit more. So 0.15 perhaps would work. And it does the job. It does the job. It's good enough. Maybe just a little less just for fun here, so it's 0.1. There we go. And this when we get up close, yeah, I mean, come on. And this is where the grass with no auto will also come into play too. So how the heck does the grass like grow on the sand like that? Well, this is where this, oh, that is the wrong one. Paint layer comes into play. And this is where it would basically get rid of the auto. And I would just like fine tune this a bit more. And this is basically the extent of the whole lake. Not bad, but not great. As you see under the water now, you can see the sand. So this is where it also tweaked the water to be a bit more dense. So just like oddball number like 3.6, and there we go. Perfect. So from this distance, there's the lake. So what's next? Well, like I said, we got texture pretty much around the ride too. We can't just do that. And what I like to do around here is, since we're actually up close and personal with the ride when you see a POV of it, this is where you would start to blend textures. And this is kind of where Nodes 2 has this like weird thing where it's like it's actually like points. It's not like a free draw thing, which I find a little strange, but I got used to it. It's basically just that. That looks pretty disgusting, I'll admit, so we're just going to get rid of that. This is where the blending tool will come into play. This is where you would blend grass and sand together. Now it looks a lot better. And now we just use sand, or we can use this dirt here, and we can draw it all around. I'm more than likely going to change the texture here, so that this way it doesn't look so strange. Because, I mean, look at it. It looks really strange. I need to adjust that, actually. I'm going to do that right now, real quick. Repeats a bit too much here. Now it looks a lot better. That looks a million times better, in fact. So from a distance here, when you go down this drop here, you can now see there's some texture, which is nice. This is what you want. You want to have as much detail kind of popping around as possible here. I'll put some no auto grass here. We'll get rid of some of the grass. This way it kind of looks like it's kind of regrowing a little bit. All right. You can drag it, or you can drag and hold, or you can just like tap it, like I kind of do sometimes, just to give it a bit of that green texture, And now we could do over this side. There's really only a couple spots I really want to do. Like I said, I just want to highlight some of the spots. Okay. So like around here, could use some dirt, which would be nice. And this should be pretty good. Alright, looks pretty good. Or at least it's bearable enough, I guess. And then we'll do over here as well. We'll up the mesh together, or the paint intensity, as the game will call it, or the simulator. Just do like splotches of it all around, then just kind of go over it with like a weaker intensity over it. So basically like that. What is with these supports, man? What the fudge? Wow, that's some RCT3 stuff right here. Look at this. Wow. I thought I changed these to 24. That's interesting. Okay. Because at least that looks a little bit more reasonable, but what the heck? Jeez. Yeah, I'm gonna fix that real quick. That's bothering me a little too much. 20s? Yeah, sure. Just thicker than that, please. Just make it thicker. No joke. No pun intended. Just make them not toothpicks. Wow. Okay, that's something. That's they give me like that was an eyesore right there. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so okay, that's still horrendous, but whatever. It's again tutorial coaster, whatever. So now that we have some texture down, I could argue that we could be ready for scenery, which is a horrible understatement. We're not ready for scenery at all, but I'm going to do it anyway because, yes. So I like to use everyone knows N7's trees, but I also like to use what the game gives, especially the HD foliage, the new one that came out. That's really nice. I'm gonna stick with, like I said, I'm gonna be as default as I can here, so in case people don't feel like downloading anything or they don't have it and they don't know where to find it or whatever, I could either link them or you could just, use them here. So we have two options. We have 3D trees and HD foliage. I'll just use the 3D trees here. They're pretty basic. Just hit add object, plop, and there you go. Boom. There's your tree. There is your tree. Now, since this game does not have excitement ratings or anything like that, it doesn't really matter. It's just for making the viewer a little more entertained while looking at stuff while they're riding the ride. And I would recommend using at least 2 to 3 different variants of trees. So this way you at least get a bit of a diverse thing going on here. So place them here, we'll just place them going around, why not? Let's not go too crazy. At least we want to get a good view of that, so we're actually placing foliage is a little bit more complicated than just say, oh, here's a tree, there's a tree. It's a little more complicated than that. What you kind of want is to have some type of order, and you want there to be natural at the same time. Like you want order as in you want riders to be able to view stuff without all these stupid trees getting in the way. But you also want like a natural look because, well, trees are it's nature. It's not in an ordered fashion. It's just it's sprawled all over the place. But you want some type of order because, again, you want to be able to see some set pieces, such as you want to be able to see the lake from here. Well, there you go. You can do the Immelmann while you can see the lake. When you're at this height, you can still see it with that tree there. And when you're down here, you can get a good shot of it if you're looking to the right. If you happen to be looking to the right. Anyway, so place a couple more trees down, and then we'll go into another little bit of scenery here. So, and as a side note, like I said, I don't use these all the time. I use them sparsely. I don't really place a bunch of these down. I would say maybe have like 2 to 3 layers of these trees. And if you're on a horribly optimized computer or a computer that just can't really run a lot, 2D trees is fine. You just need something that kind of sparks the interest a little bit. You don't need to be too crazy like what I'm doing. Like this is more than enough to just say, hey, look, it's a roller coaster, guys. Here, upload to YouTube or something. I don't know. I'm gonna upload the POV separate to YouTube just for fun. I mean, if people are just curious what the final result is, then I'll just do that. Here is a tip. What I'm gonna do right now is a big no-no. I highly advise not putting trees in the center of helixes unless they're very large, which in a lot of cases they kind of aren't big enough to host a tree that this size at least in there. Like, I highly advise not doing that. I recommend doing something else, which I'll get into in a bit. So, since my computer is not bad, I guess, for lack of a better word, I can put quite a bit of foliage down without it being too bad, especially this foliage. I could put a whole thing of it. I don't even have to put 2D trees down. Anyway, so yeah, now here comes the 2D part. So I'm going to put 2D trees down, and this is again to have optimization on parks. For people, if you're going to put it up for download, I highly would recommend doing this. So this way, lower end computers can at least have a chance of being able to run this. So kind of just shape out where the 2D part would go. And again, you don't want it to be like too close. You want it to kind of not be noticeable, but you want to be in places where you won't be looking at all, basically. So like basically this whole part around here should be just covered in like that. And then we'll use a second type of tree here. We'll use a maple. Just cover up the gaps with it. And if you're good enough, you can have a good tree line and you can hide it from, like using these 3D trees, you can hide it pretty well from your view. So this way you kind of can't even tell they're 2D trees in some aspects. And we'll go right up to this and we'll view it from right here. Like you can't tell those are 2D trees unless you go up to here and then yeah. Basically. That should be enough. So here comes the HD foliage. So as you can see, we have very higher quality trees and some bushes and like ferns. So basically, we're gonna make a bit of a scene here with this first drop. So what we're gonna do is just place a couple of these bad boys down, like that. See? Just place a couple patches of them, basically, like so. And here's a fun fact, or for some who are getting into this, you can, if you double click on the object, you can change its positions manually, like so. Instead of having to use this, you can rotate them, or you can scale them. Scaling meaning like, watch me hit like 1 here, it looks bigger now, or something like that. You can scale it. So this way, in case you want to have, again, optimization, you place 1 and you can scale it to be like 3 times as big. It's like covering an area of like 10 of these. So this way, it's just less to load in. But again, I am not really one to do that, so I just kind of just place a bunch. It saves time. That's kind of the thing. Like, I'm very nature intensive, meaning like I just have a assload of stuff like this down. So again, do pardon my horrible optimization idea. This is where if you don't want it to be like dead looking here, just place some of these down. This is why I'm generally not really a huge fan of helixes to begin with. I mean they're okay, but it's just you got to find some way to keep it interesting in the middle here without it like looking too dull. So I'll just shut up and just place a bunch of these down, and then we'll continue in a moment here. Okay. That should be good enough. Maybe like a bit here. Okay. And as you see, we have like English elm, we have 2D, and here we have a forest bush we can place down. That's what it looks like. You can place a few of these down all around the landscape here if we want. We would just so to please. Okay, let's not go too crazy, because then that's when it looks a little strange. Place them around this fashion. It looks okay. It looks a little chaotic, but however, it looks okay enough. I would say this looks pretty good. It doesn't look amazing by any means, but it looks okay. This would make a pretty good screenshot, actually. So now we're going to place some of these higher quality ones just for fun here. So Quaking Aspen, could place a few of these bad boys down right here if I wanted to, but again, don't want to obscure the lake that much, so we're going to place some more along the lines of here, and just want to double check the car length when I do that. And watch, this can be moved over just a little bit actually, just so this way I just don't have the risk of it colliding whatsoever. rid of that. Damn it. Okay. With that. Alright. Place some more of these, and should be okay. I like to group these up together. I don't know why I do that. Just to destroy my own frame rate, because, you know, I like to do that. Don't judge me. Anyway, so now we can, or I can rather, let me rephrase that. I can now, let's say we want to place, could place an English elm. Those are ginormous, but so I'm not going to do that. I'd say we're pretty good with the foliage aspect for now, so there's that. So now, I think that's kind of, actually, no, wait. What I do next is doing, drawing the path lines. So normally I would use either a 3D model or some type of thing to, or some type of pathway that I've downloaded to kind of make my own entrance and exit and pathway. For the sake of this, for simplicity reasons, we're going to go to terrain settings here, new layer, and we're going to call it path layer, right? And we're going to open up, go here, up, pavements. We can do asphalt, brick pavement, and again, we can enlarge it to kind of get a good sense of what it is. Let's do brick pavement, right? And we're going to paint layer. It looks absolutely gargantuan and disgusting. So again, we're going to have to lower it to probably C. As you see, C is much more manageable. C or 0.1 seems to be a bit of a magic number for stuff like this. So that's kind of cool, I guess. Here we can draw a pathway going out like so. And a no auto would. Okay. It's okay enough, I suppose. Just turn this to no auto right over here. There we go. And then path layer. It's a little finicky, especially since you don't have the path intensity up like a moron. Okay. Auto. Perfect. There you go. And finally, for one last thing, you could potentially just add some dirt around here. Again, just lower the intensity here because having full on dirt is not exactly good looking per se. And this is how to pretty much fully detail a roller coaster. And for fun, we can place like a flat ride over here or something. So we're going to do that real quick. And that should technically be it in terms of the basis of No Limits 2 in a nutshell. Like make a coaster, support it, terrain, then scenery it up. So here we're going to go to library, library, pardon me. We're going to go up, up, up. So about this here, scene objects, and we're going to do demo objects. And as you can see here, we got an enterprise, we got Ferris wheel, and we got swinging ships, or even wind power. We got park, so you have like basic lamps and benches and all that. So when it comes nighttime, you can those will actually turn on, which is actually really cool. We can have different vehicles here. We could have background like power cables, buildings. You got like different food stalls, which is really nice. Here's some demo objects. I already said that. Go to rides, and here we have a pretty good collection of thrill rides. So we can put down like a roundup or a pirate ship itself, Jar Tower. So we're just gonna do a roundup. We're gonna put down the roundup. It's gonna go right there. And we are going to put the stairs for it right there, like so. And we're going to edit it in a sense where it will perfectly line up. So again, to use it, I like to use this quite a bit, especially when you're going up and down with it. So this way you get a good feel of like how high everything should be. And to fix it, just go like this. Yeah. Up there. Again, does not need to be perfect, but kind of needs to be pretty close. That works. And then we can choose to terrain, path layer. Okay. Same over here. Okay, I keep forgetting to put on the full part. I did not mean to do that. I meant to do 2x2. You could just, do all that, but this doesn't look that good when it's all like padded up like that. That's just my opinion. Anyway, so yeah, we'll go back to no auto, fix her up. Go to 1 point influence, and we'll just awesome. There we go. There we go. That's how you make pretty much a very, very, very simple park practically. You can just draw this out as far as you want, all the way to the edge of the map or whatever you want to do. For me, I'm not going to do that. There's no reason to. And this should kind of wrap it up in a sense. Like, this is the absolute basic and most pure form of just making a simple park in No Limits with using only basic stuff. So anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed watching, and I will see you all for another video, hopefully with Planet Coaster, believe it or not, coming in the future. I have some more of that coming. So again, I'll see you all later, and have a good day.